Hey, what's going on? Minuteman Preparedness here. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about bugging in or bugging out. That is the question. And it's brought up quite a bit in the prepping community. And there's a bit of controversy behind it because a lot of people glamorize bugging out, and a lot of people tell you, no, you need to hold tight where you are. I'm going to give you my idea and my theory behind it. It's just my 2 cents, but we're going to see where it takes us. Maybe it'll help you out. Maybe it'll give you something to think about. Or maybe my idea is just dumb. I don't know. But we're going to be talking about that next here on Minuteman Preparedness. All right, so welcome back to Minuteman Preparedness. So let's go ahead and jump into this topic. And I went ahead, I typed up some notes on this so I could make sure I got all of my thoughts together on this topic. It's about 2 pages worth. So I'll be going back and forth between you all and the computer so I can make sure I hit everything. So bugging in or bugging out? That's the question. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of what I wrote and kind of break it down a little bit. So this topic is talked about quite a bit in the preparedness community. Bugging out is seen as some type of a glamorous adventure, which you'll have to do. And this couldn't be further from the truth. One part of that statement is partially true, and the other is not true at all, really. Bugging out is not some type of a glamorous adventure. It's a dangerous task which is full of unknowns. And if you're not properly trained, equipped, prepared, and mentally prepared, you're more than likely going to die. So, bugging out, and this is how I feel about this topic. Bugging out is a last resort situation. It's the last resort thing. And it should only occur if you have no other choice. Your home should be your castle. You should know every inch of it, daytime, nighttime, anytime. You should be able to close your eyes and walk around and maneuver in your house. You should know it. There should be no questions about that. You should have the mindset and understanding that things can always go bad. And so you need to be properly prepared. And with preparing, in this sense, we mean having stockpiles of food, water, medical supplies, self-defense means, which there's a plethora of them, a means and a plan for dealing with hygiene, which is a lot of times overlooked, sanitation, again, overlooked, water purification, knowledge, and a deep understanding of your area and surroundings. And by that, I mean like the people that live right around you, like in your neighborhood, your community, and then expanded out, 5, 10, 15 miles. You need to understand those areas. Is it mostly just industrial and business? Do we have schools? Do we have housing areas that are not desirable and there's a lot of crime, a lot of pedestrian traffic with people that a lot of times don't have the best of intent behind them? You need to understand your area. You need to know your neighbors. Bugging out is not for the weak and weary. It won't be fun. It won't be enjoyable. And it's not a weekend glamping trip. You're not just going to throw your stuff in the back of the truck, hook up your RV or whatever and roll on down the street like it's any other Friday afternoon after school and work. And you're going to the beach for the weekend and setting up at a preset campsite with a nice concrete pad and electrical and internet hookups and sewer and water. That's not how this is going to work. And I think a lot of people prepare like that. They're like, well, I've got a big truck and I've got a camper, I've got supplies. We'll throw them in there and we're just going to ride off, or, we're just going to go park in the woods somewhere. that's misguided idea of how things are going to, how you need to do things and how the world is going to be at that point in time. So, you know, as I stated, bugging out is going to require an immense amount of training, planning, and preparation. And it can be done. Yes, it can be done, but not by everyone, not by a lot of people. Very, very small, minimal group of people that would be able to pull something like that off. Not a lot. Let's see here. There's a few reasons why I think someone should bug out, and some, it's going to be, and the reason for them bugging out is going to be as last resort or, location based. And so the first one is you've done everything you could possibly do. You've prepared your home and property, with the proper. Oh boy, I've just lost my train of thought there. Let's see here. So, anyways, you've got your home and property prepared. You've got fences, signs, or whatever. You've got blackout curtains. So you've got some sense of security in your home. Reinforce your doors, windows. All that type of stuff. You've got your food, your water, medical. That laundry list of things I stated. You're good to go. You're hunkered down, but something happens. That propane stove catches fire. Your home burns down during this SHTF situation. Big storm blows in and takes the roof off your home, or something like that. Your home is gone. It's destroyed. Well, you don't have an option. You're going to have to bug out. And that is not a great time to bug out, because if you're bugging out, you want to go before a lot of people really realize what's going on. If you bug out, you've been hunkering down for a week or two, and then something like this happens, you're going to be rolling out, and everybody's going to be paying attention to you that's around you, and they're going to try to take advantage of your misfortune. But to me, that would be a situation where you would have to bug out. Your residence, your castle has been compromised, whether it's been overrun by intruders and you had to get out, some sort of storm or emergency at the home, your home's destroyed, something like that. And then the second one, which there's three, the second one is you live in a high rise in a populated area. You have some room for supplies, but you don't have a lot of space for long-term sustainment. You don't have the ability to store large caches of food and water. You're unable to really produce any type of food on your own besides what you may be able to grow on a balcony, couple tomato plants, pepper plants, something like that. But in doing that, other people in the surrounding area, the high rises, they see what you're doing. Being in a high rise in a SHTF situation, and I'm not talking, for a couple of days or something like that. I'm talking about the grid is down. We were hit with the EMP, just some sort of, just massive situation where things aren't going to be back to normal in 5 days, 2 weeks, a month. Things have just gone piss poor. Being in a high rise, that to me, that would not be me, first off. But if I was in a situation like that, I would have already properly planned and prepared so that if word came down, this situation was about to happen, it was happening right now, I'd be able to load up and roll out. I'm not waiting. I'm not hanging around. I'm getting out. And with that getting out, you need to have not just stuff on your phone or on electronics. You need to have paper maps. You need to have checked these routes multiple times in vehicles, on foot. You need to know those areas. You need to know exactly where you're trying to get to. You need to know alternate routes of getting there. You need to utilize some of the satellite mapping and check those areas, see if there's extra routes you can get there. If you're on foot, you need to have bug out bags prepared with your essential supplies, identification, documentation, self-defense, food, water, good pair of shoes, couple pairs of undies and socks, medical, all these things. You need to have this stuff already planned, prepared, and ready to go. Not packing it up when it's happening, already having this stuff in bags, in a couple totes where you can throw it in your vehicle and you can get out right then and don't wait. That would be my second reasoning for bugging out if I lived in that type of situation. And the third reason, I really wouldn't consider it bugging out because you're already out. Say, for example, you've went on a trip out of state, family vacation or something of that sort. Well, you're not home. You probably don't have a lot of your supplies with you, but if you're into preparedness, you have supplies in your vehicle and you're prepared for some type of a situation, and you have things with you to help you get through that situation. But your decision is, are you going to try to make it home? Do you have the ability to even try to make it home? If there's an EMP, the vehicles are down and you're in the next state over and 600 miles from home, are you really going to try to make that 600-mile hike, through all those different areas? Or are you going to try to stay in the area you are and try to find somewhere secure to go? That's not really a bugging out situation because you're not leaving your residence and going somewhere. You're already away, but you have that decision to make. Do you try to make it home, or are you going to try to thrive and survive in the area that you are? And that's also, again, where planning comes into play. I don't really go many places. The couple of places I do go, I know those areas because I've been going there so long. So if something happens, I know what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go. But if I do go somewhere, I hadn't been, before on vacation somewhere, I know I'm not just going to be able to make it home in a couple of days on foot. I've checked those areas. I look at mapping, I look at aerial photography of those areas. I try to pick out, that the areas that look less desirable places to stay away from. I plan a lot of this stuff out, and yes, it takes some time, but I look at it, it is my job as the husband and the father to protect my family. So I take that time to figure these things out and plan out. And if something happens, kind of have a general knowledge of that area, even though I've never been there before, but have some mapping, and some planning. So you have that decision to make. Are you going to try to make it back home, or are you just going to stay out where you are? That's really just situational dependent right there. So when it comes to bugging in or bugging out, you have to you should do the best to stay at home unless you have the ability to leave and you need to leave because you're in that high rise or in a heavily crime ridden area. There's always a time when things are going to get bad. So, it comes down really to your particular situation, your area, the area around those areas, the wider areas, your training, experience, knowledge, preparedness. That's really what it really comes down to. You know, for me, I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here at the house. I know my area. I know my neighbors. I've talked to my neighbors. We've kind of got some stuff. We've talked about some things. Some friends very, very nearby, walking distance. I've talked to them. I've got things pretty well figured out. As best I think I should. But it's always best to try to hunker where you are unless you have to leave that area. And for me, like I stated, it would be if something happened to your home and it's destroyed, and you can't stay there, so you have to leave, or you're in an area where you really need to get out, like a high rise. You don't have the ability of storage of supplies, propagation of your own food or anything like that, obtaining water really from open sources, or you're in a heavily crime ridden area, and when it all hits the fan, that area is just going to go wild. But like I said, if you do plan on bugging out, make sure you get out before things really get bad. Try to get that head start. Make sure you have your stuff already ready. You have plans, that training and knowledge, and supplies ready to roll. But I hope that gave you all something to think about. And real quick, I don't have a way of selling stuff at the moment, but I have been going through some different things. I do have patches which I had made up. I just got in a couple of these hats. I've tried a couple of different designs. I kind of like these, especially since they're Richardson. And I do have some nice shirts with the small seal on the front and the flag, and then on the back. I'm gonna try to figure out a way of maybe getting these up on the market somehow. Like I've told y'all in the very beginning, I'm not very good with this stuff. Trying to figure it out. And one last little pitch here. I hadn't done this before. I finally got it figured out a few days ago and got the initial approval and got the final approval yesterday. But in some of my older videos, like where I'm showing gear and supplies and things like that, not the biggest fan of this company, but like a lot of people, I do utilize them because it is nice and easy. I do like purchasing, from local stores, mom and pop shops and stuff. But I did get approved by Amazon. So I went through all of my older videos where I had different products and items and things and put codes in there. If you're looking at those videos, you see something you like something, do me a biggie and click on that code, try to help me out a little bit. Just a little bit of means to try to help me further this along. A lot of you all who've been watching me since the beginning know I'm medically retired law enforcement officer. So, I get a very small pension, and, I'm trying to do this stuff, monetary. A lot of this stuff, it costs money to try to do, even though this is something I've always wanted to do. But, swing by there, check out those things. If you like them, hit the link for me. I'd really appreciate it. And as I have on my bio, I put on there about the Amazon. I don't, put up codes or anything for any type of products that I don't own, products I hadn't used or held in my hands and tested and messed around with. I'm not throwing up random odd codes for this and that and all different types of items to try to make a dollar. I'm not doing that. Only things that I own and use and trust. That's it. I don't want to throw my name on something that's pushing it to you all and, something mess up with it and it turns out to be a big hunk of junk. I'm not doing that. But that would help me out. I appreciate y'all watching my videos, but with that, you all stay safe. Have a great day, and Minuteman out.